welcome to day 20 of Critical Encounters Villainous Yule calendar for December 2022. Here, we get in the holiday spirit and take a quick look at some random festive aspects of the game. So let's peek behind the door and see what our so-called villains are up to.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to the lair. We actually have a full house tonight. I am joined by Steve and Daniel. Hey guys.
Hey!
Hey, I'm just going to be in the other room, right? You guys are talking something like...
Oh yeah, because as you can see, there's someone else in your chair.
Right. So I feel that means I can just go watch TV?
Yeah, sure.
No TV. You have to sit down and read with us tonight.
We are joined by ScarletRhodey. Hello.
Hey, y'all.
Welcome back.
Why, thank you.
So why are we here? Steve invited you, but he didn't actually fill me in on what's going on. You've got a stack of comic books behind you. What's going on, Steve?
Well, ScarletRhodey is going to talk to us about comics. I hear that Marvel Champions is based on comics, so we're going to talk some comics. He's gonna give us some knowledge.
Oh, that's
I thought
good.
you guys have just been making that up for our 150 episodes.
No, that was you.
Understood. I guess I misunderstood my marching orders.
Well, I'm glad I was scared. I thought he was going to read to us, an art-based format on an audio podcast.
It'd be very descriptive, though.
Okay, well, I'm going to shut up for a while because I want to hear what you have to say.
Well, yeah. Thanks for having me on. This is perfect for those of you getting like a Marvel Unlimited gift for the holidays, and you don't know where to start. And so we I kind of came up with some comic recommendations for each of our heroes. So far, just the Avengers and Guardians that we have in the game. Now, some disclaimers. These are all my opinions. And I have read all of these comics, and I definitely have opinions on all of them. But I tried to think of ones that are really good that aren't so deep in, 80 years of history, and often really show off that character and a good jumping off point. And then you can discover more after that. There's a couple folks that frankly don't really have a good one. So you won't be hearing me talk about Valkyrie or War Machine or Quicksilver. They just don't have a good starting point that's not too tied into other things. Or Spider-Man, honestly, just go find a number one and go forth. He has so many things, also not my deal. But for the rest of them, I pretty much have at least something you can check out and kind of get a vibe for. So I think we should start with everyone's favorite hero, the beginning of the MCU, Iron Man.
Well, I'm sorry. Steve, he's kidding, right?
Yeah, we don't talk about Iron Man here.
Can we just take another stack, Chris, because that's...
Oh,
no
right.
thanks.
How about...
Yeah, because the couple Iron Man you had, we tossed in the fire to keep the
that's why
building.
the worm in here. Okay,
Yeah.
got that.
We added it to our cruel log.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about Carol?
But move along, Chris. Seriously.
Okay, all right, yeah. How do we feel
Next.
about Carol? Carol Danvers? Do you
sure.
like her? Yeah, good old Captain Marvel. So I actually have two different recommendations if you want to check out Carol. First is 2012's Captain Marvel by Kelly Sue DeConnick. This is the first series where Carol actually had the Captain Marvel moniker and the outfit and all of that you're used to from seeing in the MCU and in Champions. However, the current run of Captain Marvel that started in 2019 by Kelly Thompson has been fantastic, and also a really good jumping off point to just kind of get to know the character and get into her world. That's a really good one too.
Do we get to see her nemesis Yanrog in any of those?
I believe Yanrog is actually in the 2012 series.
Okay.
I'm 99% sure. Yeah. So it's been a while since I read that one, but both are really just solid ones. And at least the 2012 series is a typical recommendation for getting into her. In the 2019 series, Kelly Thompson's a really good author, so her work usually is really good. Sticking in the core box, we also have T'Challa, the Black Panther. And I think a really good one to start off with, especially if you've become more familiar with him through the MCU, is 2016's Black Panther by Ta-Nehisi Coates. Word of warning, he writes a bit slower storytelling. So as you binge it on Marvel Unlimited or any other sort of way that you can get it, from your local library or whatnot, the trade paperbacks. But it's a really good story, and a lot of the visuals inspired and were happening at the same time, the visuals that we're used to in live action as well. A number of those characters are in it, but it's a really good story.
I'm gonna read that one. I love him. I didn't know he wrote comics.
Yeah, actually, I believe this is his first comic that he
Okay.
wrote. And then he actually went on to, it's not my recommendation for Captain America, but he did write a really great Captain America series too. So,
Fantastic. Cool. All
yeah.
right.
Which again, it's just a little on the slower pacing,
Sure.
but read together is a good story.
He's a great, important YA author, so that's wonderful. That's great.
And then closing out the core box with my favorite core box hero, She-Hulk. Uh, Jen Walters, I have two recommendations again with her. One is 2014's She-Hulk. It's written by Charles Soule, who I think is really cool. He was actually an attorney before he became a comic book writer. And yeah. And as I think some people on the Discord know, I teach a class about superheroes in the law. So I actually assign a number of the issues from this series in my class because he actually writes the law pretty well. I mean, for entertainment purposes, but it's a good series with her. It kind of is a nice fresh start with her. It's obviously pre-MCU, being in 2014, but her current ongoing series that's only like I think less than 10 issues in by Rainbow Royal is great too. So that one started in 2021. But both of those are good. Really kind of they have the kind of happy-go-lucky sort of Jen Walters that we're used to, without diving too deeply into other pieces of Marvel lore.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. And then moving into wave one, Captain America. This is probably the oldest recommendation I'm going to go with. It is Captain America, the 2004 series by Ed Brubaker. It is a classic. This actually really heavily inspired his MCU version and Captain America: The Winter Soldier and a lot of that. And it's just a really well done series that you probably won't want to stop reading. And it goes through quite a lot. It's long, but I would start there. That's a really great place to start for Captain America.
Is that the series that eventually folds in with Civil War 1?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a really good series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's usually one of those like highly recommended Captain America stories, and really set the sort of not pace, but set the standard for modern Captain America stories as well. So, yeah, and then with Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, start at her very first appearance, 2014's Miss Marvel by G. Willow Wilson. That is her original author, and that entire series is just fantastic. It is why she's so beloved. The story definitely reads as, a young superhero coming into her powers and what that means with like family obligations and all of that sort of stuff. If you've ever played Miss Marvel in Champions, you get the wealth of theme that exists with her, and that's really in this series. So I honestly can't recommend this series more.
I read this when we did our very first secret dossier. We picked her. I read a bunch of this series. It was great. Yeah, gave me a good appreciation for her.
Oh yeah, and super new reader friendly. So
I want to say earlier when you said this is going to be my oldest recommendation for Captain America. I've been waiting for like 1961, and you're like 2004. I was like, oh.
yeah, you're not going to get any like super old recommendations only because the style of writing is so different through the
Yes,
decades.
yes, it
And I
is.
think if you're accustomed to like sort of just modern storytelling, not just in comics but in any medium, anything probably honestly around like 2004, maybe 2000-ish is really the first time you start to see what we're more accustomed to in storytelling. So Thor, I actually would recommend the Jason Aaron saga. So Jason Aaron is an author, and he wrote Thor from like 2012 until 2019. And his sort of epic is already considered one of the gold standard like Thor stories. And that all starts in the series called Thor, God of Thunder from 2012. This is also where like gore happens, Thor Love and Thunder, and a whole lot of stuff. Thor becomes unworthy later on. There's Jane who becomes Thor. Spoilers for a multi-million-dollar movie. And all of that, but it starts here. I think it's only like a 12 or 15 issue series, and it's easy to just Google like the Jason Aaron reading order because it's very well done. And there's like things that are mentioned like that he pulls up years later in his own sort of story, and it's really great. I actually own the full collected editions, these like very, very thick trade paperbacks. There's like 5 of them covering, 7 years, I think.
You used to own them. Armenians have now stolen them, but go on.
Oh, damn it. Again. So, moving on with Black Widow. So, she weirdly actually does not have a whole lot of comics dedicated to herself, but 2 that I would say are pretty good and great to start with. One is 2016's Black Widow, which was written by Chris Samney and Mark Waid. This one is kind of a really punchy, like, kind of good, quick story. Word of warning, though, the very first issue I don't think has a single line of dialogue. So it's sort of just all action. Maybe the last like panel or something has some dialogue, but it was good. It moved really quick and all of that. Additionally, her last series that started in 2020 and is now complete by Kelly Thompson, who I was just talking about with Captain Marvel, was a fantastic read as well. And so if you want something a bit newer, and that one also involves Yelena a lot too. So if you're interested in that character from the MCU, she's in that series.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And then Doctor Strange, the one no one ever plays anymore. I would really recommend from 2006, Doctor Strange The Oath. It's, I think, a 5 or 6 issue miniseries. That's kind of like, they took a lot of inspiration, I think, for the first Doctor Strange movie, but it's a nice, like, closed in, like, one-off story to really get a vibe for him before you dive into other series with him. That one's just a really good, again, it's often recommended. It's by Brian K. Vaughan, who actually also wrote The Runaways, which is a very popular comic as well.
Oh, okay, yep.
Yeah. And then Hulk, I think, I'll be honest, I think this is the first Hulk series that actually made me want to read a Hulk book. And it is Immortal Hulk by Al Ewing. That started in 2018. The art is very body horror, and also the artist we don't talk about. But the series is fantastic. I think it got accolades throughout its entire run, and it's a really good place to start. Al does use a lot of canon, but not in a confusing way. Like, things might get mentioned, but it'll be explained, or it's not as important. So if you knew years and years of history of Hulk comics, like, you might get something deeper out of it. But in general, as someone who has not read all of those, it was still a very, very enjoyable ride. And actually, some of our art, I think, the Hulk kit is actually from the series. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. For Hawkeye, moving into The Rise of Red Skull.
Okay, Hawkeye. Go ahead.
Yeah, that Hawkeye.
Okay.
I think the number one recommendation has to be Matt Fraction's Hawkeye that came out in 2012. That one, you will see a lot of inspiration from the Hawkeye Disney Plus show. And that's sort of the Hawkeye that a lot of people were expecting in the MCU, as well as in Marvel Champions.
Mm-hmm.
But that one is just great. And the art's fantastic. It's David Aja. And it's just a really solid series. It's more street level. It's more down in your luck kind of Clint Barton getting beat up every issue. So it's just good. It's good fun.
This is infamous Pizza Dog.
Yes. Pizza Dog is introduced in the series. There's some Kate. There's a lot of other of his, and his other ex-girlfriends who all think he's an idiot. Those type of things.
This goes into like him being like deaf as well, or like at least partially.
Yeah. So Hawkeye's actually been deaf for a really long time, since like the 80s, but not every writer acknowledges that. This series does have touches on it a lot more. than other series have, in really unique and interesting ways.
Okay.
So that's good. And then the other person in Rise of Red Skull, Spider-Woman. I have two kind of probably off the beaten path recommendations for her. One is 2015 Spider-Woman by Dennis Hopeless Hallam. And that one actually starts with her pregnant. So it's a really big reset. So it's a nice starting on point that you're not like totally confused at what's going on, because that's part of the mystery. He's like, who's the dad and things like that. But that one's really fun. It's a lighthearted sort of version of Spider-Woman, as well as her most recent series, the 2020 series by Carla Pacheco. That one is also just really fun. I think I was reading it and laughing out loud half the issues. So really recommend it.
I like when they're able to touch on like real world type stuff, like she's pregnant, like that's a thing, right? Or you have kids, or
Yeah. Oh yes. And so, and that, I mean, that changed her status quo because she has a child. So in all of her series moving forward. So yeah, it's good. And kind of, because when you think about a pregnant superhero and all the complications that come with that.
yeah.
So the next one, moving into like wave 2, is Ant-Man. And for Scott Lang, the version of Ant-Man we have, I would really recommend 2015's Ant-Man by Nick Spencer. Generally, he's not one of my favorite authors, but he really created the current Scott Lang in the comics. And there's actually 2 series. It's Ant-Man that runs for like, I think 5 issues. There's a little break and it comes back as Astonishing Ant-Man, which is a little longer. It's also where we get like one of our allies, Giant Man, Raz Maholta. He's introduced in the series. We get Cassius Stinger later on, but it's really good. Scott moves to Miami. It's a good one. And if you notice with some of these, they are also around the same time that the heroes make it to the big screen. 2015 was Ant-Man's
Sure.
cinematic debut, so it's a good starting off point. And then Wasp, Nadia, she has only had 2 series by herself, and I would highly recommend both. They're very short. One is, I think, 10, and the other's 8 issues. And it's called The Unstoppable Wasp. The first series started in 2017. It's by Jeremy Whitley. And I would recommend reading the first one so that you can read the second one, because the second one is just really, really good. It has some of the best, I think, grappling of mental health I've seen in a comic book and things like that. You kind of need the first series to really develop the emotional connections for the second one. But it's really good. I mean, Nadia, I know she's controversial as a hero. I like her. Not everyone does. But her 2 series are actually really, really good and fun.
Cool.
Yeah. And then, of course, my dear Wanda, my namesake, is ScarletRhodey. She's actually only had 2 series ever. One was a 4-issue one in the 90s. Don't read that. And then she has a series that came in 2015, her cinematic debut, by James Robinson, which is actually really good. It focuses a lot on her like being a witch. A lot of readers sometimes balk at this one because every issue has a different artist, but she kind of travels the world as part of the thing, the storyline, and typically whatever country she's in. So she's in Japan in one issue. The artist is a Japanese comic book artist. She's in Spain. In another one, it's a Spanish comic book artist, which is kind of cool. However, I think in like a couple months, or even maybe this month, I can't remember, she's getting a brand new solo by Stephen Orlando, who's been writing a lot of good stuff lately. So that might be a good way to jump on as well with her. Yeah. And so that's all the Avengers. And so if you're interested in sort of the team itself.
Now wait a minute.
Yeah.
What about okay, you said no War Machine or Valkyrie, but what about Vision? Isn't he an Avenger?
Oh yeah, sorry. I forgot. I have on my list, I have them release order.
Release order. Yeah.
Yes.
I figured.
So okay, yes, I forgot to. Spectrum.
Yeah.
Monica Rambeau, who I do love so much. So I would recommend probably one of 2 series, or kind of reading these through. They're sort of on the same timeline. it's a lot of Al Ewing, who I already talked about with The Immortal Hulk. Al Ewing is probably one of the best comic book writers out there right now, at least in my opinion. But one of his earlier series, 2013's Mighty Avengers, really focuses on Spectrum. She has not had a solo until I think she's getting a limited series starting like in a month or two. The same with Scarlet Witch. But Mighty Avengers is great. It has her. She's leading a team. The rest of the team's great too. It's very much her pre-con deck. Those the allies that she had, are generally part of the series. And if you like tower defense as a scenario, really that sort of is the vibe in the first couple issues. There are tie-ins, but you don't really need to read the actual event that it's part of to know that Proxima Midnight's just kind of like trying to tear up Manhattan, and they got to deal with her. Yeah. So that's really cool. The other one, again by Al Ewing, that came out in 2015 is Ultimates. So you might find some Ultimates that are part of the Ultimate Universe, which is a whole other thing. Don't worry about that. This Ultimates is sort of a very high sci-fi team. They deal with threats to the universe that are sort of really big problems. Like one of the very first things in this comic is like dealing with Galactus, who eats planets, and how do you fix this problem to stop him from doing that? But the team's kind of awesome. Outside of Monica, you have Blue Marvel, and really develops that relationship. It makes sense why he's her signature ally. Captain Marvel is on the team. Black Panther's on the team, along with America Chavez. So it's a good book, and the art is like fantastic. So really recommend that one. And then for real, The Last Avenger, Vision. I think the really only recommendation I could even think of doing is Tom King's Vision from 2015. This is the series that basically Vision goes and builds his own family in the suburbs of DC. And it's just, I don't even know how to describe it. It's not creepy, but it's like, it has like a foreboding feeling while you read it, between how the art is and the writing. It's just fantastic. It's 12 issues. It's great. Viv Vision, who we have one or two, different
Two.
ally versions.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is where she's introduced, but it's just a really good series, and I think it won awards when it was coming out and stuff too.
Okay.
So okay, you might be interested in the team. And so if you're interested in the Avengers as a team, I think if you're a new reader, the best recommendation might be the current and soon to be ending Jason Aaron, same guy who wrote the Thor title, that started in 2018. The team, when it first started the book, it was basically our core box. It was Iron Man, it was She-Hulk, Captain Marvel, Black Panther, and then also had Captain America and Doctor Strange, as well as Robbie Rogers, Ghost Rider. We have actually a number of cards with art from this series. In She-Hulk's kit, I know a leadership card that I can't remember what it is. Definitely has a art from this series as well. And I think it's good. It's good for new readers. It's not my personal favorite Avengers series, but I like more of the 80s stuff and 90s. But I think if you're looking for something new, and it has nice, kind of discrete story arcs after like a few issues or whatnot, it moves on. And the team changes. Blade joins at some point, but yeah,
Cool. All right, that's a lot of Avengers.
that is a lot of Avengers. We have a
Yeah.
lot of them. Yeah, they just like they're like rabbits. They just multiply. Speaking of vermin, we can start talking about the Guardians and Rocket. So Rocket Raccoon, I think. Well, first of all, let me backtrack. The Guardians. None of the Guardians that we have in this game, save for Venom and Adam Warlock, which I'll get to in a second, had really solo books until their movie came out because they were so minor. There is, if you're interested in the Guardians in general, I would recommend, and you want to do a deep dive, Googling the Annihilation, sort of the event's called Annihilation, just Googling that reading order because it's a bunch of series. It's pretty long. It redefined Cosmic Marvel back in like 2000, I think 6 or 8. But I'm not going to be recommending those because they're big. But so each of the current Guardians that you think of kind of had like very short 5 or 6 issue series that happened all around like 2014, 2015, 2016 when their movie fame really started. That includes Rocket. He had one by Scotty Young. We have art from that series, particularly with his Nemesis set. So, speaking of rabbits, and that one
Don't say it.
is
Don't say it.
what?
I know what Mike's.
Black Bunny Brigade.
Ah, I said it. Okay.
Yeah, and so that one, it's fun. It's short. I think it's like I
It's
don't remember
4 or 5
but
episodes. Yeah.
yeah, it's nice little series. The same with Groot. He got a very tiny little series, the only one in his name ever, from 2015 by Jeff Loveness. I know I read it. I don't really remember it that well, but I
Is
know I
that the one
read
that
it.
has Fernax in it, or no?
I don't think so.
I can't.
It's sort of like he's on his own, like wandering about because he got separated by Rocket or from Rocket. Yeah, most of these Guardian ones, I think they were like pumped out more than necessarily quality. But yeah, and speaking, I'm gonna skip some release order here, but Drax does have a series that's part of Annihilation that I would not read as a beginner thing because it is tied into that. But he does have a 2015 series written by, I believe, a wrestler, CM Punk, and I don't super care for it, but I think other people might. And it's definitely a good, starting point sort of series. And Drax looks like the Drax in our game, and sort of more of the MCU Drax than what he used to look like in like the 80s. And Gamora also has like a very short miniseries from 2016 written by Nicole Perlman, who was actually one of the screenwriters in the original Guardians movie. And that one is sort of like a flashbacky type series that reconceptualizes some of her backstory, it was pretty good. Star Lord, I would actually recommend. It's my personal favorite Star Lord comic, and what made me really like him is Chip Zdarsky's 2016 run. It's sometimes called Star Lord Grounded, particularly the trade paperback version. There's only 6 issues, but the basic conceit is after a big event that you don't need to worry about, the Guardians get stuck on Earth because their ship's destroyed, and so Star Lord like starts working at like a villain bar.
Oh,
And
right. I remember
yes,
this one. Yes.
yeah, it's real
You're
good.
just going to gloss over that big event?
Oh yeah, I'm 100% going to gloss over that big event that happened.
All right, good. Yep.
Yep. So, but yeah, it's very fun. It has Chris Anka on art, which he draws beautiful people. So it's great. I think it's fun, and it's sort of fun to like see Star Lord on Earth and have to deal with like Earth issues and dealing with people and not understanding how laws work, or at least Terran laws. But yeah, it's a good. And again, these are all like very quick reads. All of the Guardians ones that I've said so far, none of them I think exceed 6 or 7 issues. So they're very fast. If you want to check out things, the one who has a much longer series actually is Venom Space Knight, which came out in 2015. And so I picked this one specifically. He had other series, particularly the first series where he becomes Venom and all of that. But Venom Space Knight, I think, one, because our version is Guardians, right? And two, it's just a fun series. He's out in space, doing space stuff and being a Venom and being a space protector, kind of. So it's a little different. It's a bit more heroic for a Venom, but it was pretty good. So, and that's by Robbie Thompson.
Nice. I know when I first started reading Guardian stuff, I ended up with like the Martinex and the Charlie 27 and like way back the first crew of them, which was not the Guardians I was looking for. But
no, yeah, they haven't been around for a while, but like theoretically they're the future ones. It's confusing.
Yeah, they do make appearances in the MCU, right? Like cameos.
They did, yes,
point.
in Guardians 2.
2.
Oh.
Yeah, there's like you see Martinex on one of the planets, and like during the funeral scene for Yondu, you see Charlie 27 and some other guys and things.
Well, yeah, yeah, and actually, Sylvester Stallone plays like one of the original Guardians.
Bing Rames.
Yes, and so we also have Sylvester's character is Starhawk, who is
Right.
one of our allies,
Yep.
protection allies. So that's it for the Guardians. Adam Warlock's a weird character, and he doesn't have necessarily any like series that is newer. He had a bunch of stuff more in the '80s when he was kind of all over the place, but nowhere kind of easy. But he's coming soon to the MCU, so I'm pretty sure we'll probably have some series about him.
Yeah.
And can I just say I'm disappointed by his hair
In the
Oh
in the
in the
previews
movie?
for the
In
movie.
the movie,
no,
Yeah.
it's not the wavy locks you want.
kind of wavy, but it's also the actor's like a kid from like an old Narnia movie, and he was really tough to watch in that.
Is he? Oh,
Yeah, it's like the second one, the annoying cousin. He's the annoying cousin.
He's the nerd in the Meet the Miller. We Are the Millers comedy with Jennifer Aniston.
I don't understand why they didn't cast Mike.
Yeah, really.
you have the hair for it, so
Yeah.
yeah. So, and I do want to do a slight honorable mention to poor Nebula. They did try to give her one of these type of series. However, COVID canceled the rest of it, so I'm not going to recommend it because it never got finished. So, poor Nebs. But if you're interested in the team, I already mentioned Annihilation earlier. That's a really great, sort of starting to like the new cosmic version of things. And that team starts in 2008, Guardians of the Galaxy. A lot of the MCU is kind of inspired by that series. However, Al Ewing, who I will never speak, I can't speak enough about him. He has a series in 2020, which is just a fantastic series. It lasted for I think 12 or 15 issues. It's Star-Lord gets like some fun power-ups, and it has most of the characters from the MCU's Guardians in it, and a number of other people who have actually made it into champions as allies as well. But it's great. Actually, I think Moondragon's art is from that series too. That just popped in my mind. But yeah, it's a great series. So I would really recommend that as a good jumping off point.
I'm gonna say it's for a modern series. It's got a lot of bananas in it. That one is definitely bananas worthy, and it's got the rabbit in it, doesn't it? The leader of the Black Bunny Brigade. It does.
He's in it.
It's got my favorite storyline with him too, just because he's so like he doesn't give a crap about Rocket. He doesn't want to be here, but it's just through circumstance he ends up being on the other end of the rocket launcher, and yeah, it's great.
Yeah. So, also Hercules is in it, which is always fun too.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because everybody can be a guardian if you just wish it enough, I guess. Ant-Man's been one. It's fine. But yeah, that's I think enough. That was a lot. It's a lot of comics. But I mean, overarching, if you are new to comics, just kind of pick a character that you like, find a number one, and you probably won't go wrong, quite honestly. These are great sort of jumping off points, but there's a whole lot out there. Don't be afraid of the canon. I think people with Marvel Comics are always like really afraid of 80 years of canon. You shouldn't be. If it's important, it'll get brought up and talked about to remind all the readers. And if it's not important, if it's a throwaway line, don't worry about it.
Yeah, because canon only goes so far in the Marvel universe.
Yeah,
they rewrite stuff all the time.
Yeah, well, tweaks, but yes.
Yeah, sure.
I thought it was just one resurrection after another, isn't it?
No, we're not DC. Gross. We've got the same universe since the 40s. But yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah, that was great. That's a lot of information.
I know, sorry.
The video of this issue will have issue covers provided. Thank you, Chris. Google reading orders. There's the complete Marvel reading order by Travis Starnes. I can put that out there so you can find where it starts, and that'll link you to your Marvel Unlimited so you can get started on any of these. I find that site is easier to search for something to start with than the Marvel Unlimited app is itself to search on sometimes. So.
And Chris, did you say that all of these are on Marvel Unlimited?
They are, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Everything is, I think, I only mentioned a couple still ongoing series, like the Avengers by Jason Aaron is still ongoing. and I think that's the only one that will keep getting issues, but I think it's ending soon anyway. So, but yeah, everything else should be fully on there, so you can do a nice binge.
Well, thank you. I wouldn't call myself an avid comics reader, as you may know, but I will definitely second the Miss Marvel.
It's just such a good series.
Good Lord, was that amazing. Every part of it.
Yeah, I love me some Kamala.
How much is Marvel Unlimited?
So it typically they often do like different discount codes and stuff all the time. I think there's one like right now for the holidays to gift it, but it usually is either $10 a month American, or I've always had an annual subscription because it's only I think 80, so you save some money if you do an
Okay.
annual. And quite frankly, like they've during COVID they changed it from a 6 month wait time from publication to Marvel Limited to a 3 month. So you're not really behind. So unless you
Okay.
really, really feel like you need to be, in the know for everything that's getting published. But it's not a very long wait time. And like personally, for me, I pretty much make up the money within I think a couple weeks because I read about 10 new issues a week, and they're each I think at this point like $4 a pop if you bought them at a comic store.
Right.
So
Right. Oh, sure.
yeah. So
It's going to take me 20 years to finish the stack you brought to the lair, Chris. So.
they're fun. A lot of those are easy reads.
Yeah, that Black Widow one, there's not even any words in it.
Yeah, and one whole issue.
Yeah, just looking at the pictures.
I'm probably going to write words in the panels. Are you guys cool with that?
Yeah, that's
gonna
fine.
make
They're
up-
his copies. So
I'm just going to make up the story.
okay. It's not like the comics out of the 60s where they have to internally tell you what they're doing as they're doing it in
Every
the panel.
damn thing.
Every panel.
Oh no,
And then
there's a bullet coming at me. I better dodge. I dodged the bullet. Like,
my power only allows me 3 dodges a day. I'm already at my 3rd dodge. Oh no. Yes, that's basically Stanley writing. So yes, yeah. I mean, in fairness, back then you couldn't easily. Well, they didn't think people would buy comics every single month, so they always wanted to remind everybody and the readers like what everybody's powers were. And Stan always gave everybody weird limitations for some reason that have all been like kind of gone by now. But yeah, that's those '60s ones are so rough to read through.
they used to give him cool powers like fast hearing too. We don't see that anymore.
I'm sorry, did you say fast hearing?
Fast hearing. Yeah, Captain America had fast hearing at one point.
Damn, that super soldier serum really working every part of the body.
That's right.
What does fast hearing even? What?
It was sort of like a precognition, really, is what it was like, or a spider sense almost. Like could tell it was coming because he could fast hear it before it happened, kind of thing. So it didn't last very long, but it did exist.
They kind of gave Carol Danvers something similar. She used to have a sixth sense when her first series back in 1977, and it was like sort of like women's intuition. It was, by the way, she was written by a man up until 2012.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that also did not last very long. You don't hear that anymore.
Yep.
Oh, wild times. Oh.
Well, hey man, thanks for coming on. Thanks for
Thank
giving us
you,
all this
Chris.
great info.
Thank you. That was great.
Yeah, anytime. So, and also anyone, listening, I am ScarletRhodey on Discord. So if you have any questions about comics or want to get some other tips or whatnot for other characters, feel free to hit me up. So, not Spider-Verse people. I don't know anything about them.
Okay, one last question. How awesome are the Inhumans?
Oh, well, the Inhumans are great, especially if you start in like 2014's Charles Soule era. The guy I was already talking about who wrote Great She-Hulk also wrote a lot of the new Inhuman stuff. So, especially Inhumans, which is when they like focused a lot more on Medusa and like, yeah, great series. I love it. I have it in hardcover.
Wow, thanks. That sounds like a great recommendation.
It is great.
Hey, folks, hope you enjoyed that. That was our special gift to you. You want to send us holiday gifts? You can email us at criticalencounterspod@gmail.com. We are Critical Encounters on Facebook, or you can find us on YouTube by searching for Critical Encounters Podcast. And on Discord, we are Vardane, Big Fumbloaf, and Wandering Took. If you like our show, tell Santa. If you don't like our show, tell Krampus. Good night, everyone.